All right, what's going on, Giants fans? It's Bobby Skinner talking Giants, and the Giants signed cornerback Adoree Jackson. You may not know who he is, but he actually played for the Giants in the past. Obviously, the Giants have brought back Adoree Jackson, according to Art Stapleton. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. I think we're going to be your best spot for Giants content all season. Adoree Jackson was always the guy that made sense to bring back once Darren Waller retired for the Giants for a couple of reasons, right? We'll talk about it. And it's not just, oh, well, he was the Giant. He knows the team. Bring him back. You know, cornerback was set up to be a disaster position for the New York Giants, right? Having Cordell Flott out there was, to me, was just wishful thinking, hoping that he was going to be good. And there's this assumption that Deonte Banks is just going to turn into this great cornerback one. He's still got to prove that, right? So you're putting a lot of faith in a lot of faith in a young investment in Deonte Banks. So you have to put faith in him, but you don't have to put faith in a guy like Cordell Flott, right? He's a man. He's like a man corner, nickel corner specific player. You have him playing outside in a zone scheme. It was always, obvious that this wasn't going to work great. But with Adoree Jackson, the reasons why he makes sense for the Giants is, one, out of like the corners that have been talked about for the Giants for the last few months, it's been Stephon Gilmore, Xavier Howard, and then Adoree Jackson are like the three that have like proven track records of playing some good football. Adoree was the youngest of that group. He turns 29 in September, and Xavier Howard had like weirdo issues. I don't even want to go into that. And Stephon Gilmore was always going to be too expensive out of the Giants' price range, and he wanted to go to a Super Bowl contender. And, he ended up getting $10 million from the Vikings, even though they're not Super Bowl contenders. And I'm not into the reclamation. Like Caleb Farley, it's a fun name. Doesn't move. That doesn't make me feel any better about the Giants if they bring him in. If they can bring him in, cool, let's give him a shot. But it doesn't make me feel better. Where Adoree Jackson, because he's coming off of a down year, makes more sense financially. And he's younger. And despite the fact that it was a bad year for Adoree, he didn't look like he had lost anything athletically, right? Now, the other side of that is, why is he still available at this point? You don't know exactly why he's available, but sometimes guys just hold out, and that offer that they think that they deserve just never comes. Or they're hoping for, a camp injury to pop up, and some team that desperately need them, and it just doesn't happen, especially when a guy like Stephon Gilmore was out there for teams to go get, who is, a better player, had a great season for the Cowboys last year. But last year, again, was a disappointing season for Adoree Jackson for him after 2 years of just outstanding football, right? Like, he was outstanding his first 2 years of his contract with the Giants. But last year, he gave up the 8th most yards for cornerbacks in football, the 3rd most yak. That's the big thing right there. You could just tell that Adoree Jackson was making business decisions towards the end of the season. Actually hurt him business-wise. But I never like to call out a player's effort unless it's just obvious, right? And with Adoree Jackson, it was obvious. And I remember tweeting about it in that Rams game. Like, man, this is kind of a risky tweet to put out there because you can't really prove it. And then you see Puka Nacua, have that 80-yard catch on him where Adoree has him wrapped up and he doesn't make a great effort and he breaks the tackle and makes that big run on them. So, and I guess, we had talked with some reporters and stuff that the people in the Giants building felt very similar, like that they weren't happy with the way that season ended. But both sides were probably desperate. Adoree is looking to get another NFL, chance, and the Giants know that their cornerback 2 is an issue, and they've known it for a long time, right? You look at Hard Knocks. Hey, if we get Brian Burns, I could play corner. Not so much. You look at the second round of the draft. They desperately wanted Kool-Aid McKinstry or Kamari Lassiter. I mean, Joe Shane looked like he wanted to crawl into a ball when both those guys went off the board. And they ended up getting what I think is a better player than Lassiter and Tyler Nubin, not Kool-Aid. But still, like, they saw that as an issue. But the other thing is just this hope that Deonte Banks is just for sure is turning into a cornerback 1. Like, we talked about Adoree Jackson having a down year last year. Banks' numbers are like eerily similar, right? The only thing he's got like a nice little margin on him is in completion percentage by about 8%, but he also gave up more touchdowns, twice the amount of penalties. So, we need Deonte Banks to really step up into that cornerback role, and then it allows Adoree to slide into that lesser cornerback 2 role coming off of a down year, right? In a scheme that's not going to be putting you in so much man coverage. So it fits any corner to not be, fits any corner that's getting a little bit older. But to show like where Adoree was to last year Completion percentage, and this is going from 2021 to 2023. 55%, 53%, then 65% last year. Yards per game, 23, which is just elite. I think it was like third in the NFL that year. 33 yards per game, and then 54 yards per game last year. Forced and completion rate, 16%, 15%, 10%. So it was a down year for him. But again, the issue wasn't a lost athleticism. So hopefully, after a down year, he's more invested and maybe he can get himself another contract with another team if he can have a bounce back year for the Giants. And it has happened to other players. But the Giants just had to avoid disaster positions. I'm going to play a clip at the end where I talked about Adoree Jackson and Greg Van Roten before both those guys were signed. And guard and cornerback were those, right? So I like bringing in guys. This isn't some hero move, but this is just good for the team. You can't go through a 17-game schedule with disaster positions, especially on the offensive line and especially at corner. It will sink your season. It will make you lose your job. Now, the Giants created this mess, though, too, by bad drafting, right? Think of all the offensive line investments that haven't worked out. Think about Cordell Flott, who hasn't worked out. And the Giants not really addressing it at all, outside of, Drew Phillips, who's a nickel-only corner for them. So the Giants made this mess, but I like that they're at least, putting some Band-Aids on it for the season, because I know that they're not a Super Bowl contender, but I don't think it's good to just go into a season where it's like, yeah, this guy's going to lose us games consistently. I just don't think that's good football, practices. Now, I know there's going to be like, there's some scheme fit with Adoree Jackson and Shane Bowen. I think Adoree Jackson is a scheme versatile player. Right. Usually when we talk about a scheme fit, it's a guy who really can't hang in man coverage, where Adoree Jackson has played really well in man coverage. Obviously, last year being a down year. But the 1 year with Shane Bowen as defensive coordinator, Adoree missed all but 3 games that year, and that was the year that he was cut. So I don't think there's like this perfect marriage between Adoree and Shane Bowen, or else he, probably wouldn't have, had his 5th-year option declined and been cut by the Tennessee Titans. So actually, his option wasn't declined. It was back when that didn't make it a guaranteed contract. So I'm going to finish it off with a clip. Again, make sure to like and subscribe, all that good stuff. But don't forget, I've been calling for Jakob Johnson at fullback since before free agency started. We're going to finish with a clip. Like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll play you out.
Who are some vet options that you'd like to see the Giants sign?
It's thinning out since we asked this question 2 months ago. To me, the one... If Adoree Jackson's just out of play, the corners worry me. But the one that I do look at is Greg Van Roten from the Raiders. To play us out. I don't know what that means, to play us out.